Metal Gear Solid 2 is one of the most audacious sequels I've seen in media, let alone a video game. 25 years after its release, I've come to admire the ideas ahead of its time. Following 85 hours of grinding through this game, I've understood the experience of playing it once or twice compared to earning a platinum trophy. After each playthrough, I appreciated its brilliance as a sequel, and I came to despise its design decisions. This journey has been one of the hardest platinums I've achieved. Most of this video will be spoiler free, but I will include a warning if there is anything to be spoiled. Let's get into this. MGS2 improves upon almost every aspect of the gameplay from its predecessor. Evident examples are the first-person view mode, the enemy event system, and the level design. In the prior game, FPV mode was used to simply look around the environment. It was limited as players couldn't use items nor interact with anything. MGS2 transforms that and makes it one of the most important tools in the kit. With the addition of the tranquilizer pistol, stealth is enhanced in first-person mode as players can line up their shots, hold up enemies for dog tags, and defuse bombs throughout the big shell. Instead of simply sneaking by, players can neutralize enemies and take control of the level without detection. The bomb disposal sequences are a great example. They encourage the player to inspect their surroundings and pay attention to their environment, as bomb locations change during each difficulty. Unfortunately, players can't move whilst in this mode, so there's frequent transitions between aiming and movement. The trade-off is that the controller triggers provide further extension, granting the player a better view when hiding behind objects. It creates for a sluggish experience to have to hold the button, then aim, then shoot using the PS3 controller. You're left vulnerable during combat encounters which require precise control, while guards aggressively push towards your position. Even with the frustrations, first-person view was a major upgrade over the original. The original enemy event system was already solid, but the sequel adds more depth to it. Rather than rewarding the player for killing guards by despawning their bodies, the game now punishes the player for being careless. Guards who discover their dead co-workers will report to their senior, resulting in extra coverage and increased guard firepower. It's not just about getting caught, it's about the consequences for leaving evidence behind. There's a genuine punishment for getting caught. Leaving the area won't solve this. Areas have dedicated guards who check in with their senior. Any interruptions to their routine places a timer on the player's actions, effectively creating more tension in the gameplay. The limitation on the time window forces the player to think of new strategies to deal with this problem. A new addition to the game is the dog tag system. Players can hold up guards and steal their tags, which rewards new items on subsequent playthroughs. It's optional to do, but it's necessary for the platinum. Every dog tag to collect is an additional risk the player has to take, as they're vulnerable to detection. Not all guards surrender easily. Without a spreadsheet, the player wouldn't know, which makes them apprehensive to engage. I didn't initially appreciate the level design of MGS2 until I went for the platinum trophy. Forcing repeated playthroughs in VR and different difficulties really outlined how structured they are. The original design tenets were already interesting, but MGS2 includes more hazards that make encounters feel dynamic. Noisy floor grates reveal the player's position. Bomb disposals are placed in areas that force a careful observation of the environment, and most encounters are focused on the manipulation of the guard behavior system rather than avoiding patrols. What I enjoyed was the remixing of levels that shifted with the difficulty. Areas now have different guard counts, different patrols, and slightly different objectives. They don't drastically change the game, but they freshen things up, especially during the VR missions, which force specific conditions to win. This was particularly noticeable when collecting dog tags, as they require at least 5 playthroughs. Guards with certain dog tags are also dependent on player progression throughout the story. It means that completion is more than memorization, and it requires a certain level of understanding to obtain all the dog tags without escalating the situation. If you are going for dog tags, please use a spreadsheet. It's incredibly frustrating to exit the game and select Obtain dog tags from the main menu. It's even more frustrating as the game does not save automatically. The player has to save manually. MGS2 has one of the most ambitious stories I've experienced in a video game. The spy thriller story deliberately reuses plot points from the original game, evolving into something far more insidious at the end. It's a rather ballsy move, as it feels like the story deliberately repeats itself. It's within the final act that the repetition reveals itself and the story is recontextualized. 25 years later, the ideas of information control, censorship, and manufactured narratives are as relevant as they were back then. It's rare to see games engage and prompt ideas beyond their story, and I haven't seen a game do it as effectively as MGS2 did. Considering most media, including this video, is designed to be simply consumed, I applaud the game for encouraging players to reflect on how they interact with media. When going from the Platinum Trophy, I started to get sick of the story. Cutscenes are heavily frequent, and they make up for at least 50% of normal playtime. Unfortunately, they cannot be automatically skipped. The player has to manually skip them every single time. The character Rose embodies this frustration. During the first playthrough, she's used to help humanize Raiden, but after multiple playthroughs, I just wanted her to stop talking. The guilt-tripping conversations are difficult to willingly sit through, and it became irritating to listen to whenever the player wants to save. The HD collection delivered by Bluepoint majorly improves upon the visuals of the original game. Since I bought this game before the Master Collection, I was stuck playing this in 720p on the PlayStation 3. The original PlayStation suffered due to the technical limitations of the hardware, but MGS2 doesn't. There's no more jittering edges, thankfully. Despite being locked to the resolution, the art style holds up immensely. There's tons of technical improvements to enjoy here. The tanker is a great showcase for improvements such as lighting, shadows, textures, and reflections. It's not one specific element, but rather the combination of them. Water is used to leave footprints in the ground and guards will follow them. Lights can be used to cast shadows dynamically, even showing within guards' sightlines. Reflections were a major improvement over the original game. MGS1 looked much more opaque, but MGS2's reflections add a nice touch, which make it feel like a proper graphical evolution. Models also have far more depth. Faces are no longer singular textures, but animated models that have far more character to them. Whilst I loved a majority of the art design, the color palette suffers. Readability is a challenge when colors blend between browns, greys, blacks, and blues. The protagonists are blue and grey, and so are the environments. It's even more frustrating as the brightness can't be adjusted. The player has to adjust their monitor. There's multiple sections where I could not see properly due to the overload of the color palette. For anyone suffering visual impairments, I would imagine this can be very frustrating. I don't know how anyone could not play this in HD. The cutscenes are incredibly entertaining to watch in real time. However, I feel the frequent slow motion blur makes the game feel dated. It's this odd smear designed for CRT monitors, not HD monitors. The audio design for this game is superb and far better than the original games. There's no more low fidelity hissing, which I am very grateful for. The audio particularly is important in a stealth game. I loved how guards would predictably announce their intentions and quiver when held up. It was a great indicator that plans were being executed correctly. The music for this game is simply iconic. The shift from orchestral music to a more drum and bass focus was very noticeable. I think it made the soundtrack less grandiose and cinematic, but it helped emphasize the energy of combat encounters. The shifting soundtrack from ambience to electronic music dates this game, but not in a bad way. Many games of this generation had drum and bass soundtracks, and I think MGS2 fits perfectly with its competitors. This is especially noticeable during boss fights where the stakes are high. If the player is going to die repeatedly to difficult bosses, good music is necessary. Thankfully, the game delivered. This game provided me one of the worst platinum journeys ever. It genuinely broke me. There are multiple moments I questioned if I even liked video games. Repeated playthroughs are one thing, 511 VR missions are a whole level of ridiculousness I cannot enjoy. The VR missions are incredibly frustrating as they repeat the same missions 6 times over. It's not that there's individual missions for each version of Raiden or Snake, it's that you play as Raiden or Snake and complete the same challenges with different conditions. Nothing has ever made a game feel more dated than pressure-sensitive buttons. I absolutely hated this. The player has to half press a button and then fully press to shoot. That's only for rifles. For pistols, it's hold and then release. This is infuriating as the player has to deal with dedicated levels for holding up guards. The sniper levels absolutely sucked. They asked for incredible amounts of precision with no leniency or aim assist. Shooting with the rifle is like using a Nerf gun. It took me 37 hours for just the VR missions and I hated all of them. They were a waste of my time and frankly, it made me hate this game by the end. I do not want to complete the same mission 6 times with slight variances. Whilst I did appreciate how different difficulties had dog tags spread across the game, it was repetitive to do the same thing on 5 playthroughs. It also made it even more frustrating as the player has to beat this game to get the rewards. Collecting the dog tags are not enough. Completing the boss fights on extreme mode is so frustrating, I didn't see any enjoyment in it. The Harrier fight is instant death. The 20 Metal Gears is pretty much instant death with no health items and no checkpoints. I had to fight Solidus with no health items on 25% health. By the time I finished my extreme playthrough, I was done. Then I had to do Snake Tales. Snake Tales is another waste of time. It adds nothing to the game, it remixes areas and acts as more VR missions. It's even worse when you have to fight Solidus with no weapons. This platinum journey broke me, and I do not want to touch this franchise for a long time. I love the improvements of Metal Gear Solid 2. I think it is an excellent sequel and it improved upon the original. The gameplay is enhanced, the story is ambitious, the soundtrack is arguably more engaging, and the graphics proved why it should be on a new console. What's your thoughts on MGS2? What's your favorite game in the franchise? What other games should I try next? Let me know in the comments, and please tag them with spoilers. Thank you for watching.